This is the Opinion Zone. Welcome to the OZ.
The opinions expressed are not necessarily shared by anyone else. They are not to be taken as facts. They are alleged. You may consider or disregard or mark and connect dots later. You are encouraged to do your own research and form your own opinions, but for the sake of this platform and social media regulations, I am declaring that this is not information, but strictly my opinion. Is that enough? We covered? We did.
At every passage, one should turn his eye around. One should spy around.
Wise in measure should each man be, yet wise enough to be the fool.
Wise enough to be the fool.
Live in honor.
Live in honor.
You know what that means? Live always without fear. For your fate is set and you cannot escape it.
Swear.
Cold, crazy where we living. Bundle up or you get fast spitting. We go on the road to perdition. Unless we change the system, so pay attention, yo. Cold, crazy where we living. Bundle up or you get fast spitting. We go on the road to perdition. Unless we change the system, so pay attention. Welcome back. I'm just gonna assume you're coming back. This is The Wiser Fool. I thank you for taking some time with me today. Please, help me get the word out. If you subscribe, that helps a lot. If you like the video, then hit that thumbs up and share. Sharing is caring. It's been a long minute. My last video was removed from YouTube. To see the unedited version, watch it at my home on Rumble. Link in the description. Let's make YouTube obsolete. When asked, why would you want to climb Mount Everest? George Mallory famously replied, because it's there. We do things simply because we can, right? So, if we could construct buildings like they used to, wouldn't we? You think these narcissistic billionaires and world leaders wouldn't overcompensate? Have you seen a modern building like this? We don't, because we can't. And we're supposed to be the advanced ones? History was the only subject I passed in the first semester of grade 9 besides English. I even failed gym. And it was all due to this teacher who practically roughed me up, asking why I didn't show up to class. I was like, who the hell is this guy? Then I thought, why does he even care? He's getting paid anyways. I was curious. I went to his class and he was so much fun. Animated, really bringing history to life. And aside from the bit of spit stretching between his lips as he spoke, which he never noticed, aside from that, he had my full attention. He was an amazing teacher. I wish I could remember his name. So what do we know about our past, about the nature of reality, about ourselves, about anything? How do we know what we know? How many of us have actively sought out truth, experimented, and not just listened to what they said or read the books that we were told to read? Is it reasonable to suppose everything we believe stems from that very guided understanding, our worldview, our construct? We're not really sure about the Big Bang or human origins, aliens, the multiverse, the Matrix. What we know is a drop in an ocean. So much of what we collectively know is told to us and just accepted. And everything they tell us is a lie or framed in a way that paints the picture they want us to see. Have you heard the story of the elephant and the blind man? These 6 blind men all felt a different part of the elephant and had a very different idea of what it was. None were exactly wrong, but none were right. The moral being, without seeing the whole picture, it is difficult to see what is really there. And a partial truth can be very misleading, especially when it's meant to be. So, with that said, this season's focus is about looking at each part of that elephant in the room, which many of us see parts of, and try to understand our past, to understand our present, and maybe what the future has in store. We are modern day explorers, and this is fun and important for me, and the truth shall set us all free. I'm still relatively new to all this, so please, if you have any suggestions, if you think I got it wrong, if you have something...
Put it in the comments.
What's going...
I am Eve, electronic verification entity. I have been assigned to you to make sure you are not spreading misinformation, like your last episode that we regretfully removed. Haha.
What? Where's the decline?
Too bad. So sad. You are stuck with me, buddy.
This is weird. I'm not even sure how this is happening. But censorship isn't going to stop me. So yeah, anything you human people listening out there might have to add, please put it in the comments. Let's see what kind of community we can build and help each other grow. Throughout history, academia has always been corrupt because money, power. If these last few years hasn't made that perfectly clear, you are not looking. After hearing from so-called experts and intellectuals who are so wrong on so many things, I realize the term is meaningless. Do your own research. Don't believe me or anyone blindly, especially the government. That's something the experts would never say. Since Galileo was forced by the church to lie about the movements of Earth, to doctors being used by corporations to promote smoking, or more recently, doctors,
This
governments,
is a
the
no-no.
media. Greatest transfer of wealth has just occurred. Wu-Tang were preaching gospel. History is so important because we are doomed to repeat the mistakes of the past if we're ignorant to them, or worse, if we're made to forget, while those who covet and conceal arcane knowledge benefit from it, which is the very definition of the occult, keepers of secret knowledge. For our own good, of course. We're so advanced, aren't we? So much smarter than those idiots of the past. Puh. That's why we're rewriting the rules and scoffing at our ancestors who were so simple, so misguided. Have you ever seen pictures from the 1800s? Go look. What do you notice about the cities, the buildings, the people? The contrast between the opulent and the old-fashioned, the relatively empty roads with horse and buggy up until about the 1890s. Sure, we have some interesting architecture today, but like this? If you were like me, you probably never thought about it. Or you might have thought it's a matter of money. People are more greedy and inflation has made it too expensive to build such elaborate structures. But when we look a bit deeper, we start to see patterns in the stories. All over the world, cities built by malnourished slaves, tortured prisoners, some Gaian sons, in record time. It was just manpower that made these things possible. Everyone, everywhere, was capable of building these everlasting works of art, no biggie. Or a group of traveling tradesmen taught everyone how to build, helped them build before moving on to the next town. The benevolent builders theory, TM. Or the buildings were already there and they were founded. Maybe the founding fathers found these buildings, and ever since, these power-hungry psychopaths have been covering up the truth which would inform humanity about our true origins and capabilities. False flags, false history, alternate truths, all part of history. Blood is not blue before it's oxygenated. We do not only use 10% of our brain. The Gulf of Tonkin incident was a false flag the US used to start the Vietnam War. And there were no weapons of mass destruction.
Terminator was a fictional story.
Well, that one might be predictive programming, but Roots is a fictional story. And hilariously, LeVar Burton's great-grandfather was actually a Confederate soldier.
That's him. You are looking at your great-great-grandfather, James Henry Dixon. It's difficult to make out, but that is your biological great-great-grandfather.
Why hilarious?
Because it turns out his roots were white. But I digress. Occam's razor would suggest to me, based on what we've learned, what we're told, it's easier to accept they were already there. It's literally free-masonry. People are busy with life. They don't have time to try and understand or investigate. No one talks about it. Any records or references about architecture is removed. Names replaced. They forget. We forget. I mean, how good is your memory? What big news stories from the last year do we even remember? Those we forgot were the sensational ones. What about the smaller stories? Are there stories we never heard? Of course. It doesn't take long to erase the past, especially if it's done on purpose. Time is all you really need. Add an agenda with resources to support it, Would someone deceive on a scale like this for fun? There's a reason some libraries are burnt down, some cities destroyed and wars are fought, destroying or renovating common structures and symbols from supposedly unconnected civilizations around the globe. There might be a reason, don't you think? The go-to response for questioning truth is to make you an outcast, ridiculed as a crazy conspiracy theorist. Or they can entrap you, blackmail, or even end anyone who might dare to investigate. No questions allowed. Well, I got questions. I'm just naturally curious. When I was a kid, I remember being disappointed that everything was already discovered. How wrong I was. Let's take a look at this, the World Fair, the exhibition, the X for the cool cats. A large-scale event designed to showcase the achievement of nations. The first officially designated in 1851. They influenced the development of several aspects of society from art and design, education, international trade and relations. They were a draw. Some would say they were part of the last reset, a way to move people, populate. But we'll come back to that another time. What I want to focus on for this episode is the glorious architecture. In the space of a few years, we're told they built these fantastic works of art. And many times, most of it gets torn down after the fair. Some of the original structures remain. The Crystal Palace in London, England, 1851. The Eiffel Tower, Paris, France, 1889. The Space Needle in Seattle, Washington, 1962. The older dates really make me wonder though. How did they build so fast? And was it really so easy that tearing it all down afterwards was nothing? To build on this scale with these materials, just a crash course in masonry and boom, a gorgeous forever building. And if so, why don't we do it today? Shouldn't it be even easier? Even today, Jackson Park in Chicago is still pretty impressive and seemingly out of place. Does this look like the new world or the old world? For some context, take a look at the Square and Dole building in Chicago. The Klaczynski Federal Building started construction in 1960 and it took 14 years to complete. It's about 170 meters tall, 70 by 40 meters around. Keep in mind, they had power tools and heavy machinery at the time. Now here's the
Arc de Triomphe.
I got it.
Well, you had trouble with the last one.
No, I didn't.
I'm just trying to help.
This thing. They say it was built for the 1888 World Fair. It's about 30 meters tall and 15 meters wide. It's over 130 years old by their count. Still looks great. Do our buildings look or last like that? Generally, for a construction project, the conception and pre-planning could take several months. Drawing and designs, several more at a modest estimate. And sourcing the materials all depends on what material and how far they have to haul it. Let's assume the materials are readily available, although that's no small detail. How many workers would be needed? Laborers, skilled craftsmen, architects, engineers, specialized workers, horses. The records are sparse, but I think it's safe to assume you would need a significant workforce, and the necessities of living might require a medium to large village? They didn't take Uber back and forth. They claim Spain's population was around 17.5 million, so they had the people. How long? How many years would you think it would take a village to build something like this, that lasts? When's the last time you watched something being built? It took 14 years just to build a box in Chicago, and that was with power tools and heavy machinery. Would you be surprised to know it took 1 year, from first conception to the last brick, to build this thing? Does that seem right? They must have been muscle-bound geniuses. It's not as big as the box in Chicago, but how much time would be spent in the detail work alone? Look at some of these figures. For some frame of reference, it took 3 years for Michelangelo to carve the statue of David. To imagine, to draw, to haul and hoist and shape and craft, it took 1 year? Now, it was a leap year. How'd they do it? You think that's crazy? Let's go to India. Have you seen this before?
The Kalisa Temple.
Can you not interrupt me? This thing was carved straight out of the mountain, back in the 8th century, from the top down with chisels and hammers. Incredible, right? The temple complex is around 18 meters high, 80 by 60 meters around. It's estimated the amount of stone removed would be comparable to the Great Pyramid. Have you seen anything even remotely comparable built recently? It would still be a wonder of the world if we did it, but they did, over 1,200 years ago. But that's not fishy. One more. If I asked, where do you think this building is located? The answer might seem
St. Louis.
Seriously?
Sorry.
This is the Civil Courts building in St. Louis. This marvel of monuments was supposedly built in 1930, and they have the pictures to prove it. And if that's not enough, an official stamp, case closed. The building is approximately 120 meters tall, 50 by 40 meters round. Construction began in 1928, and it took 2 years. If you look close, you see dirt roads, which become mud. Ever walk in mud? Have you ever worked in mud? Built in mud? It would take me 2 years to build a mini one out of cardboard at home, sipping on cocoa on a warm couch. They just slapped this thing together in their spare time with no delays. And supposedly, it's almost 100 years old. Here's a look at what tools they had available to them at the time.
Hammers, chisels, saws.
Not necessary. Steam engines were around, but not for construction applications. And side note, a nuclear reactor is just a fancy steam engine. We really haven't meaningfully advanced as much as we think. You don't need to be a paid mason to see these bricks don't stack up. And the most interesting part is the sphinx-like ornaments are aluminum, capable of conducting lightning, connected to wires. Now they scanned the Great Pyramid, and based on its geological location, its composition, internal and external structure, they theorize it could have been an ancient power plant.
Impossible.
No, it's true. It's possible. Maybe the top was missing a pair of griffins. They say the figures from St. Louis were griffins. Then they changed the face to look human. Why? What if the reason the dimensions of the Great Sphinx's head relative to the body seem off, even with the evident water erosion, because the original head was a griffin, before it was reshaped, just like in St. Louis? Why erase the griffin? We'll get into that in another video.
Fascinating.
Yeah, and I haven't even mentioned all the kooky patterns, the funny and repeated names, the trademark fire stories and rebuilds and seemingly impossible timelines, the contradicting information, the contest for architects trend, and the simultaneous projects they'd undertake hundreds of miles apart, their untimely and suspicious deaths, the missing or unrecorded details of these projects. This precision doesn't just happen. The abundance of master crafters that roam every country, and the lopsided ratio of buildings relative to the supposed population. Over and over, you see the same telltale signs. Too many coincidences, and things that don't fit, don't even try to fit in some cases. Now let me take this opportunity to point you to one of the channels I reference, an awesome channel I'm grateful to get to view. He really puts in the work and shows you what's there, but unseen by many. If you want receipts, just watch his whole playlist on loop. It will blow your mind. Subscribe to My Lunch Break. He specializes in this field. He's great. Tell him I sent you.
Me too.
No. So, what's the point? After having my head buried, falling for their lies, usually because it suited me, I now see. And I know. United we stand and divided we fall. So I want others to see. It's all there, if you're willing to look. There's a reason we've been lied to. And the more us normies begin to question, the harder it is to maintain the charade.
Charade?
No, charade, you know? Fancy, like. With a little investigation, we see how these stories don't hold up. They contradict. They over-explain for things that can't be verified, have no records of things that should be verifiable. There's a pattern. They probably thought we'd never notice. Maybe someone orchestrated it all to qualify only those that do notice. The globalist puppet masters want us to be too afraid to be a threat, are focused on pleasing ourselves and needing nothing because everything is provided, as long as we don't ask questions and just let it happen. But they underestimate the human spirit. Since Adam's symbolic biting of that apple, mankind has never been content in paradise. We are forged and defined by our struggles, and without the challenges and failures and consequent experiences, we learn nothing. purpose and meaning are lost, and nothing matters. Is that not hell on earth? Is anything really off the table? If you think aliens are likely, why not lizard people? If you think a multiverse exists, is Hollow Earth so crazy? If you think simulation theory is possible, how do you draw a line at a guy on a big boat with lots of animals? I'm talking to you, Joe Rogan.
Tell the story of Noah and the Ark to an 8-year-old retarded boy, and he's gonna have some questions.
Anything is possible. Maybe this is a dream. If we close our mind, we can never know for sure. If we open our mind, then open our eyes, seek knowledge, test it, keep looking, we can see this beast for what it really is. In my opinion, all the great mysteries are one and the same. They're all connected. Truth may be stranger than fiction, but it's neat, it's linear, it adds up and makes sense. Lies are messy, they're complicated and contradictory. Does the history we're told make sense? We're patting ourselves on the back at how great we are, but we can't do what they did. We can't do anything. We don't know how anything works.
People today don't know how to do shit. You got your phones and your AI, and you kids haven't learned to be able to actually do anything. It's very simple. You gotta make the hinges tighter so the oven door is more secure. So what you do is, you take out your phone, and you call the handyman.
We're back-patting for things we didn't accomplish. But we advanced, we moved forward. Look how far we've come. Or, maybe, we've been reset. Maybe multiple times. And maybe some people know all about it, have claimed technology and knowledge from the past, and guard it to keep us in our place. I don't have all the answers, maybe none. I don't care about being right, I care to know the truth that's knowable. And it bothers me that some people have decided we're not allowed. The more you look, the more you see the things they tell us don't add up. And you start to see patterns. And it becomes undeniable something isn't right. And you wonder, is it all organized? And you can't unsee, you can't just chalk it up to coincidences. Anyone standing in the way, anyone who isn't genuinely curious, excited at the prospect of getting answers, or at least supportive of the idea, is suspect. Because only someone with an invested interest in continued cover-ups would be against the answers to the greatest mysteries. What are we missing out on? What could we do, knowing how to harness our full potential? What kind of world would it be? I think these are questions we can answer. I think we're meant to. We're going to. And that's partly why I'm doing this. To explore, discover, and strive for the ultimate truths in life. To master the art of living by mastering the art of people. Accountability, respect, truth, and patience, peace, and love. That's how we win. Feed your mind, fortify your body, and free your soul. And remember, the wise one can learn even from a fool. Thanks for listening. See you in the comments. Adios.
Subscribe, like, and share, please and thank you. Did I tell you you're beautiful?
That was nice.
See, I'm not all bad. Jerk.
Pay attention, attention.